What is God's justice? I'll ask that question again. What is God's justice? Justice means to do what's right in every situation. It means to do what's right according to God's justice. And what we have found is that the lowest form of justice, which is not God's justice, is revenge. The greatest form of justice is forgiveness. I'll say that again. The lowest form of justice is revenge. The highest form of justice is forgiveness. But we have a court system, especially here in the United States, is not based on mercy. It's not based on grace. It's not based on forgiveness. It's not based on goodness. It's all based on revenge, punishment, and retribution. And when you see that, and sometimes when we get revenge, that's a good feeling. But is that what God taught us? The answer to that is no. Micah 6:8 says, God has showed you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you, but to do justice and to love kindness and mercy and to humble yourselves and walk humbly with your God. One of the greatest things that Jesus ever came out of his mouth was, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. That is God's justice. Jesus taught us in Matthew 5:44 to love your enemies, bless those that curse you, do good to those that hate you, pray for those that despitefully use you. And another place he said, forgive everyone that's hurt you. Why? Because that's God's justice. But here's the problem. We don't believe it works. We believe that trusting God to do justice his way will put us at a disadvantage, will allow people to walk all over us, will allow people to continue to oppress us. But if you check the record, that's not true. In fact, Jesus taught us that his type of justice is not returning violence. He was nonviolent. He said, I am not none. That's why I can't believe that this Jesus that taught us so much about justice and forgiveness and mercy and goodness that would come back to the earth and put people in hell. It makes no sense. If you do your research, you'll find that John was pissed off while on the Isle of Patmos. He was pissed off at the Romans because they had come in and destroyed the city of Jerusalem, and he wanted revenge because that's all the book of Revelations is all about. It is about revenge, and that's not God's justice. It is totally against everything that Jesus taught. Come back, I'll teach that on another day. God taught us not to return evil for evil. He taught us that we are not to become like our oppressors. In other words, we stand against those that oppress us, but then we're not to turn around and go and oppress people. And what do we see in the church? We, especially as an African American who's been oppressed and being oppressed, it's still today people are trying to oppress us. And then we go into the church and we want to oppress the LGBTQ plus community. And we want, with our Bibles in our hands, the same Bibles that they use to oppress us, we take that same Bible and go and oppress other people. That's not God's justice. Why? Because we don't believe love works. We don't believe that grace works. We don't believe that mercy works. We don't believe that forgiveness works. We don't believe that treating people the way we want to be treated works. We don't believe those things. And so we fall back to man's justice of anger, bitterness, revenge, and we put our Bible up and we say we're justified in doing it. No, we're not. Enemies can be stopped without destroying them. Jesus said, we can stop these people because Jesus said, I did not come to condemn the world. I came to save the world. I did not come to harm the world. I did not come to kill people in the world. I did not come to get revenge on people in the world. Jesus said, these people are sick and I'm a physician. I can heal them if I can get people to love me enough and trust me enough that this method works better than any type of revenge they can come up with. Like I said, if we're going to do justice, justice always has restoration, reconciliation, redemption, and forgiveness. That's what God's justice is all about. And we have a choice, even in our own personal relationships. Are we going to have relationships built on anger, bitterness, and revenge? Or are we going to have our relationships built on love, grace, mercy, forgiveness, and goodness? That's what God's justice is all about.